US President Joe Biden's trip to Brussels to meet leaders of NATO, the G7 and European Union was aimed at rallying Western allies to find ways to stop Russia's war in Ukraine and send a message to Moscow that the West is united.
NATO has never been more united than it is today. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended to have as a consequence of going into Ukraine.
Biden said the US would commit $1 billion in humanitarian aid to Ukraine and that Western allies would impose a raft of new sanctions on Moscow.
We're also announcing new sanctions of more than 400 individuals and entities in alignment with the European Union. More than 300 members of the Duma, oligarchs and Russian defense companies that fuel the Russian war machine.
Earlier in the day, Ukraine's president addressed NATO leaders and asked the military alliance for more help to fight Russian forces.
The Ukrainian army has been resisting for a month in unequal conditions, and I have been repeating the same thing for a month now. To save people and our cities, Ukraine needs military assistance without any restrictions.
NATO continues to reject Zelensky's request for a no-fly zone over Ukraine over fears that it could escalate the conflict. But the alliance has agreed to send more weapons to Kyiv as well as equipment to deal with a possible chemical or biological attack as concerns grow that Russia's invasion could take an even more sinister turn.
Any use of chemical weapons will totally change the nature of the conflict. It will be a blatant violation of international law, and it will have widespread consequences and, of course, be extremely dangerous.
Biden joined EU leaders at the end of the day for a summit focused on ways to wean the bloc off its reliance on Russian energy supplies. On Friday, the US president will travel to Warsaw to show support for Poland, which has welcomed the majority of Ukraine's refugees. Biden wants the West to keep up sanctions pressure on the Kremlin, but the question is whether it will be enough to stop Vladimir Putin's war as it enters a second month. Natasha Butler, Al Jazeera, Brussels.